Welcome to episode 106 of A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. I'm your host, Eddie, and joining me this week, a man who absolutely effed me last week by single-handedly messing up my tempo, thus nearly single-handedly effing us as a collective, which resulted in nearly booking our entire scenario, which could have impacted the playthrough and the podcast for the week. And I hope he's happy with himself. Gaz, say hi, Gaz.
Hi, guys. I warned you that you should not tempt fate.
There's no recording on that.
All right. It doesn't matter. I was there and I have witnesses, okay? I warned you not to push your luck. You thought that you were going to be hilarious. And you thought that, hey, we're going into this scenario. I'm going to get Gaz to cut my amD. Hey, and I said no. For the record, I want to be clear that I said no. We don't want to go there. Why would we do this? It's not, the curse doesn't pass from me. We've established this. It's always with me, but it can just infect other people and live with other people for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you wanted to tempt fate. You tempted the amD gods. You tempted RNGesus. You tempted whoever it was that you were poking.
Yeah.
And you got what you deserved.
Okay, so after that lie has been explained. No, yeah, Gaz is right. And if you've seen the playthrough this week, round one, I have a card called Savage Stalker that if I kill something with it, number one, it does 5 damage plus 3 damage if they haven't been damaged yet. They're on full health. And I like to open up with that because I get to go invis, which I'm sated and all that, or my Bleeding Claw and our Crimson Scales campaign, lots of things here, in just case people aren't following along. And
in case episode 106 is your first episode.
Pretty much. And I shuffled the deck and I just thought, hey, you know what? Because lately I've also been shuffling my miss somewhat to the top, not in the first round, but sometimes through in any given scenario. So I gave it to Gaz and I said, can you cut this? And he gave me the look and I'm like, yeah, I know, it's funny, lol, but that's just part of the meme. It's part of you're not really going to cut the miss to my top. That's why I was fine with it. And if for some reason it did, I knew I could blame him because he voodooed it or he did something on purpose. You know, those magic sleight of hand things. So yeah, I did that. He gave it to me first round in, I draw the miss and then I don't get to go invis, which was supposed to be the thing that was going to keep me alive. Which then made the rest of the scenario for me a little bit hard. And, it's amazing how one card, and can I pretense that like the only 2 cards in that massive deck that was going to ruin that was going to be a -2 and the null, right? Out of that many cards, what is there, like 20 plus cards in there? And you just had to fish it out.
I was never going to pull the +2. It was null or nothing. Right. So, and look, what can I say? I'm good at what I do, right? Like it's just what I can make sure that the miss goes to the top of the deck.
I'll be honest with you.
We've seen it with the convoluted things I've done to try and make it not be there. I'm surprised that you thought one cut was going to be enough, right?
Can I be honest with you? All the way through all of that, the convoluted way that you've tried to fix it, the amount of times we've talked about it over the years, right? I still don't think it's a thing, and I'm still thinking it's like a funny meme, right? And even after what you just did to me last week, I still don't hesitate to give it to you and go, this can't keep happening, right? Statistically, it can't. So the more it happens, the more I want to do it to show that, well, it's literally for the rest of our lives, statistically, it should never happen again.
Correct, right? And that's exactly the point, is that it's a bad string of luck. And when we say bad string of luck, that's over 18 months. So, but like, hey, it should right itself, yeah? And I know that, a good friend of the show and one of our community members, Ricewin, said, I think when I had that, I drew it 3 times in a row, I think, through reshuffling and stuff like that. He actually said, you're making me question my faith in statistics and probability. I might be paraphrasing, but something along those lines. And I too, I'm a statistics guy, kind of, right? Like I believe in that, and I understand. But I also believe in magic. So, eh, that's what do
No,
you
it's
do?
got to be
So,
statistics.
and just so everybody is aware, because you can't, it probably has been caught on episodes before, but with the playthrough, I constantly ask Phil to try and cut my AMD once I finish shuffling it, because of the superstitions, and he won't go near it because he did once, right? Once when he didn't think anything of that, and his luck was just terrible for like a session or two.
That's
He
right. I
won't. He
remember
won't
that.
touch it. He won't. He won't even go near. Like he just flat out refuses. He would leave if I put it in front of him or on top of his AMD. He'd just be like, "I'm just not playing. There's no way I'm touching that." So, yeah, I
Is
was
it
very
fair to say
surprised.
he's terrified of it?
Yeah,
Like,
it's like beyond kryptonite, right?
mm,
Kryptonite just makes Superman a normal human and mortal. This
mhm,
AMD actually kills Phil.
it does. Kills everyone, kills all their fun. On today's episode, we'll be covering Scenario 9, Rescue Mission, amDirt Diaries, Bleeding Claw, Beetle Edition, and our first conversation about the Tusks, which is very cool. New class. And our topic for the week is the tank role, a discussion. Carrying on from last week's when we talked about the support role. And these discussions also, I will just add a caveat there that, yeah, we're talking about the role in general, like in general gaming, just kind of what it means and where it came from and all that kind of stuff, but also how it works in the Haven series, if that's a thing, if roles were a thing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So let's jump into our recap of Scenario 9. We start off with our road event and our city event. So we had a city event, which is City Event 22. No, not
I have
not
no
clicking.
idea.
Yeah, okay. And
Usually I have an inkling.
you're the one reading them out, though. That's the thing.
I know. It's literally just there. Oh, look, I'm sure once you tell me what it is, I'll remember.
Well, yeah. A new Quattril magic shop, Glue Magic, has opened in the Mixed District.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Though the lack of customers is concerning, the enthusiastic shopkeeper offers us a free magic trick, claiming we're the first customers, despite the shop being open for hours. We can choose between the disappearing act trick or the spinning wheel trick. Remember those?
I do. And I think we summarized it to be we would get some kind of item or effect. One being invisibility, and the other, I think we thought, we didn't think
Yeah.
muddle. I think we
No,
thought something else.
that's what it was, wasn't it? I don't have the cards with me. I left them in the other room. But yeah, I think we were talking about what they could possibly mean. Now, I enjoy that part of our discussions when it comes to trying to work out what I guess the designers are trying to do and how they're trying to hide it behind the wordings, with those choices. Disappearing act, which sounded invisi, which was, we were hoping for maybe an item of invis, but that was going to be a little bit too OP.
Yeah.
And that's the one we ended up going with, in the hopes that it was going to be something OP. And we ended up using the event as a one-off. One party member can choose during their turn to go invis. Which, I have a card that does that, Chaos. Sorry.
It was really helpful because it allowed you to simulate one of the abilities that you.
Yeah, I know.
chosen.
I know
Yeah.
it just feels so
And there was a couple
bad.
of. It did. But there was a couple of times that through the scenario, I was just thinking to myself, oh, it'd be real good if we had that invis thing.
Yeah. And
but-
that's it. I want to save that, right? I want to save the invis for when we actually need it. And the worst part is we actually needed it when we actually didn't need it because we shouldn't have needed it.
Yeah. So, but no, that was a cool event. I again, I like the here have a once-off effect that you can control for a scenario. It's kind of like having the pets from or Pokemon from I know they're actually pets, not Pokemon, from Frosthaven, right? That you get to control, and I think it's kind of cool. It's definitely better balance than giving like a potion of invisibility or a cloak or something like that, where that just becomes broken for the rest of the scenarios.
Sure. Yeah, it becomes a mainstay item that we need to have, like the light speed boots or whatever it is.
Yeah. And I think the other thing as well, which we've talked about, and I think this is a good example of, is just because you brought it up, I do like talking about us trying to work out what the reward and or outcome of the events is. I find that I'd rather be at that top end of like being able to almost metagame it in a way, right? Rather than the bottom end when it's pick red or green.
100%.
Right, because it feels like at least if we can figure something out and we're wrong, or the signposting led us in a different direction, at least we had a chance of figuring that out. But when it is just like pick red or green, and you're like, well, I don't know, like this is literally a flip of the coin. They're the ones that I feel like it doesn't matter. We may as well flip a coin on. So yeah.
And the ones in Crimson Scales in particular also seem to be a lot of events that, like a lot of them, are for the scenario you're about to do. Whether it be an ally that's coming in, or in this case, a once-off item. I think last week we had a once-off effect of some kind, like we can put a lick rock down, like things like that. There seems to be so many that are tied into the scenario instead of, do this and do that. This one's gain a rep, this is lose a rep, or this is gain money, lose money. I like the fact that it's almost like the challenge deck, like super not, but you know what I mean? It's like that will make that particular scenario that you're doing more unique, and the timing when you get the timing when you get the events.
100%, yeah, and I mean that's exactly in a different iteration of the challenge deck. You could have a deck that you just draw at the start of every scenario, and a random effect, kind of similar to a road event, but happens to you when you start. So, I mean, if Haven was designed in a different way that didn't have scenario effects at the start of a scenario that you could avoid, and road events, you could simplify that down to just draw a card and something happens. So you come across someone and they're going to join you on your fight, or hey, you get to this point and a bad thing happens, and that it would take the agency completely away from the players, which would feel bad, but it is simulating that, and I think that's quite cool, like having a different effect that can slightly modify each scenario, and make everyone's experience just a little bit different.
Yeah, it's fair to say that these ones though are beneficial to us as opposed to what the challenge deck does, which is usually negative things like buffing the monsters. If the road event negative was something like, it's hard to say, at any point spend this card to make a monster go invisible, you're kind of like, how about we don't do that, or forget about it, etc. But if it was like, round 4, make any number 2 standee go invisible, like something that niche, I guess they could work it that way, but it gets a bit finicky, right?
Yeah, 100%. So what was our city event? Because I have no idea about that either.
That was the city event. We do city, the road. So road event was 44. Now this was amusing because I had mentioned that I just shuffled it because the chain helm had just retired. Yes. And I just shuffled that. I shuffled both the road and the city events into their respective decks from the chain helm, and then just popped them to the side and forgot about them. And then when we drew it, we drew straight into the chain helm. We just can't get rid of this guy. And we come across a merchant's caravan on the roadside and decided to have a look inside, where we were surprised to find an old acquaintance, the chain guard, who has started a side business selling traps. As a friendly gesture, he offers us one for free, either a set of rusty spikes or a clamping snare. And we kind of let Mark make this decision because he knows his traps like the back of his hand really well. But the chain helm, since being no longer controlled by Mark, has made his traps worse. Like, no damage and all that kind of stuff. It's just, would you like, what was it? It was a stun trap. And I kind of remember the other one. Probably a muddle or something else.
Yeah, or immobilize or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but either way, this is great because this is another one that affects the scenario you're doing. And this was, I think, at the very beginning of the scenario during setup, place whichever trap you chose adjacent to any enemy, one enemy or one monster or something like that.
Yeah.
Which was really cool. Yeah. So yeah, fantastic. Some really, really fun events that we've been having. And then we head over to scenario 9. So rescue mission, we heard about the secret rooms in the fortress of something, right? At the Merchants Guild or the Crimson Guild or the Crimson Scales. I can't actually remember what the guild's called, but I'm pretty sure it's something that's very memorable and due to the game that we're playing, like the title, but I can't actually remember. And we're on the lookout for a quattrel. Councilman Roxani wants us to find this quattrel for a reward or something. And by that, like morale or an axe nut or something like that. And we went to scenario 8 and we didn't really find it. But once we killed all the threats, we heard a click and a door opened. And that led us to descending into scenario 9, which is where we ended up going. So we went down a deep staircase and found another wooden door. This one, thankfully, was unlocked. With a quick nod, we push it open and we are immediately blinded by flashing lights. As our vision clears, we saw guards and a lot more weapons. One of the weapons, one of them sneers and says, calling us intruders and making it clear we're not welcome. Why is that such a generic bad guy thing to say? I'm just curious. Like, you're not welcome around here. Like, why is the reaction not, whoa, what the hell? Like, just something a bit more like that. It just feels very cliche NPC enemy.
Yeah. Yeah, like, yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't know, because it's a cliche.
Yeah.
And if the guy was just like, whoa, hey, what are you doing here? Then the response could be like, whoa, we're just exploring. And then they'd be like, oh, okay.
You can't be here.
We'll
It's
move
private
along.
property.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I would have taken that. I would have been like, hey, it's private property. You say, well, sorry, but we're here. And it's like, well, now we have a reason to fight you, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we can think of explaining, he whistles and the weapons begin clicking into position. This isn't going to be a friendly chat. And our goal was to kill all of the revealed enemies and loot the gold treasure tile, which was cool because it was clear enough, but also I like the fact that that word reveal there, we clued onto it fairly quickly because we had like 4 tiles to form a circuit. It was like a nice round one. And then from the first room, we had 2 doors that then led to 2 different rooms that then led to both the final room, connecting everything together. So technically, from what I understood and what actually happened, yeah, if you don't open that second door on one of the sides you go to, you don't have to clear it. You only have to kill all the revealed ones. We had a combination of city guards. We had the archers, ancient artillery, and the legend said a cave bear, random cave bear. And I just want to point out that I love this as for the scenario because when we cleared one at the first room, and then we went to open the door, a cave bear, and I like to think it fell out of a trapdoor in the ceiling, and it was elite. And it was like, release the bear, like release the kraken. And this bear just drops down. And we're all like, oh, this is awkward. And then we had to fight this bear who was immune to all conditions and had 2 shield due to the special rule around it. But I like the surprise because it's so unexpected. And I kind of want more surprises in scenarios like that.
Yep. Yeah, it was. It was kind of cool. And the timing of it
The timing was
is
great.
awkward.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of, because you do kind of plan when, there's one monster left and you're like, oh, I'll long rest then, right? Or I'll do whatever, I'm just going to mess around. And then we killed that one and they were like, here's a bear. And you're like, oh, we didn't plan on bear.
No.
So, yeah, I think it was good. It was a good idea.
It was pretty cool. We talked about, I don't have to talk about round 1 because we already talked about that. And the other thing is like, I don't have a way of getting, at least with the card combinations I was using, advantage. I think advantage would have saved me, but I didn't have it at the time. So there's something I need to tweak, but we'll bash that out in the amDirt diaries.
I think, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. We'll talk about, amDirt diaries, yeah.
Give us a general gist of how the scenario went.
Well, after Deddy went in and needed saving, we cleared the first room. I went up and stood next to a bunch of monsters for ages.
That was so good.
And I didn't bring my retaliate card because I was just like, I have brought it every single scenario. Why I won't bring it this time? And it turns out I needed it. That was annoying. I had a couple, but I sat there and tried to really whittle away at these things.
Just on that, do you think now that I don't know how many scenarios we've done now with you as the Beetle, do you think this would have been the most effective retaliate scenario that you would have had? Like, not from a scenario point of view, but from just the way it played out. Do you think it would have been a way more effective scenario?
Yeah,
than all the other
probably. It would have been, yeah. And I've got more HP now, so I think I could have done it. But I did a lot of standing next to ranged things, making them attack me with disadvantage. So it kind of would have been. Essentially, Deddy and the crew cleared one half of the first room, and I stood next to the guys on the other one and whittled them down. we cleared that. We fought a cave bear. We moved into the next room, which was chockers full of dudes. There was like what one cannon, three archers, two guards. I think were in there, and it was a very small tile
Is this
with some
the
obstacles.
this is that second room just after the bear?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it was
yeah,
pretty tight in there, and we've got Mark's mounts, and we've got you putting colonies down, and yeah, it's
yeah. Which was cool though. It did feel like very much if you were going into this kind of I don't know 3 or 4 room little barracks type secret area with these guards. You are kind of going into the room where they've set up for you, right? Because
mm,
they had the guards in the front, they had a barricade, they had the archers and the cannon at the back, and it really was this. There's going to be a lot of damage coming out now, and I think everyone did a great job to mitigate it and or like just burn things down so that we didn't take heaps.
no.
So yeah, but we cleared that. Opened the next room. The next room was weird because it kind of was the final, like the whole thing was a loop, and we essentially just had to move in there and kill everything while trying not to die. And it got a bit hairy, like it got a bit close. Phil had a really clutch play at the end with his burn. He's got a burn card that hits
Triangle
things in
burn with the
triangles,
model. Yeah.
and wound as well. I think it does.
Yes. That one was pretty
Um,
clutch.
Yeah, so we were looking a bit rough because I didn't have a lot of damage outside of retaliating, and like I could do a little bit of that. Deddy was really running lower cards, so he had a lot of burst, and Mark's still trying to figure out what he's doing. Like he was doing some things, but we didn't know whether he had like the capacity to carry or do a chunk of damage, and but Phil through that and basically deleted 3 of the remaining units, which then meant it was kind of mop up time from there. So yeah.
Absolutely.
That's kind of how it went.
Door timings, just quickly. Whenever we have to open a door, it's we're talking about how we're going to breach it, and there's a level of prediction of where monsters are going to be. I don't know if if you plan around this. I don't know how often you play a DPS that needs certain amount of range or and all of that. Maybe you would have experienced that a bit on the Galaxy, but you would have maybe not have had to plan that much because you weren't the first one to go through. And here I am, because I had a second fluff turn. I don't know if you remember, where I was all in on Savage Stalker again because I had used the Curious Pendant to get it back the first time. And it was that weird moment where you have to time, you realize how far away from the door you are and what movement you have available to you, and then where you hope the enemy is going to be.
Yeah.
And it's like an all in or nothing, and I probably should have waited an extra turn, but what actually happened was I didn't. I waited for that turn in the hopes that I could go in there and there would be something in range that I could hit for the 8. And luckily there was, but it was a guard who had a shield, 7 health and a shield, which meant I had to hit for 8. And I think, yeah, that was the one where I drew a -1. I think I drew a -1 wound rupture or something like that, and didn't get to go invis again. It was twice. It was like when Mark's double KO wasn't working, but not as catastrophic. Not as catastrophic, but yeah, it was really rough, and it was the second time, and now I'm at the front, and then I just started taking an absolute beating. I think I burnt 3 cards in that room to mitigate damage that I was about to receive, and that just shows how big it was. We ended up talking about this towards the end about I don't want that experience to scare me off attempting that in the future.
Yeah.
Otherwise I'll play too cautiously moving forward, where I'll be too afraid to make a bold kind of play, because if it gets off, it's huge, right? But if it doesn't, which I've experienced, and I'm glad I've experienced it now.
Yeah. Yeah. We might touch a bit on this in the diaries, but I
Yeah.
think the Bleeding Claw is you want to be taking big risks to have the most fun and have the most like kind of opportunity. So
Yeah.
you're burning cards, which is always risky, to try and set up big plays. And I don't think in either of the cases of the first room or that turn you chose incorrectly. And I guess with the layout, people who have watched the playthrough will see, but where the layout was, you weren't jumping into like the middle of the room to do it. Like you were really close to the door still. So despite you still getting hit a little bit, you were close enough that me and Phil were able to leap over you early in the next turn and then just stop anything else kind of coming after you. The difference would have been going like right into the back line, right? Like if your move had been a move 10 and you ended up next to 5 monsters and then not gone invis, at that point we can't save you,
No.
right? At that point, then you have to do something to get out of it, or you do die. And that's kind of thing the difference between big risky plays that can throw, or big risky plays where if they don't come off, it's fine. You just don't get the payoff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what this was. This was one of those, well, you would have killed him and then you would have got invis and you would have got a bunch of like momentum. It meant next turn you could have gone in harder invis, but you just didn't get that, which just meant you had to change. So
Yeah.
yeah, I 100% would like to see you continue to do those type of plays.
Yeah, of course. And when we're planning it and we can see the health, that's the thing. You can see how much health they have. You can see how much the attack is for. You just crunch the numbers and work out what your AMD is kind of looking like. Generally, in both situations, they were weighted heavily towards me succeeding. And that's what makes it really rough, right? Is that
Yeah.
it wasn't like I was just going for a Hail Mary play. I wasn't.
That's the thing. Exactly. It's a big risky play, but you're right. It's not the Hail Mary. Like it's not, I need to draw a +2 or a crit on
Yeah.
this attack to make it work. It's like I have to draw 0 or not a negative, which is interesting. So I think thinking about times that I have had to check kind of go through a door and then work out ranges that come to mind is playing the Geminate. I know early on because it was like,
Yes.
hey, I'm going to open this door and I have an attack that is exactly at range 4 or 5. I'm only going to have one movement after I finish this door. So hopefully they're not all right up in my face. And so I remember that being the case a couple of times.
It's a good call because I remember a Geminate one where you went into a room. It was like one time that sticks in my memory where there were 3 enemies at the exact range you needed or something, and you got so excited. Whereas other times you've got to make really work for it. So yeah, that was good point.
That's it. And the only other one I remember is with the crab, but that was because I would give myself 10 movement, and I'm like, as long as I can make it 10 movement with jump or something like that, right? As long as I can make it far enough into the room where I can draw all the aggro and retaliate everything, then I was fine.
Yeah.
But that one, the positioning is a little less important because I don't need to attack. I just needed to be further than everybody else.
Yep.
Right. But I get the stress of it. Probably not as much if you're playing a burn kind of card like that. So yeah, it's interesting.
I got a couple of talking points. City Archers. Now I think we saw them in the toxic one. Oh no, they were our friends.
They're on our friends, yeah.
They were nowhere near as amazing as these ones.
No, what? Yeah, actually, good point. When they were on our team as our friends and that, they were like dog shit, right? Like they were not pulling big attacks. And then I think in one of the turns, the dude moves into a trap to kill himself. Like it just, come on, guys.
That's right. They use the same archer deck, right? So there's an archer deck. They use the same archer deck as the bandit archers. And then I was like, what is the difference between them? And I was just having a look at them because these ones were wrecking us. Like not wrecking us, but they got PS2 and attack 5, And I was like, oh, okay, their base attack, at least at our scenario level, which was 2, was I think 3-4, and then +1 made the 5. And because a lot of these ones were elite, they were hitting for 5 with PS2, and only the elites I think have innate PS, but they were mostly elites anyway. So that's why it looked a lot scarier. Whereas bandits are more, I think they're 2-3, and they don't have PS. I don't think they have a shield either. Yeah. So or maybe they do have a PS, but either way, they're hitting for less. But then you've also got the guards. So same thing, city guards and bandit guards. And I didn't know this, but it's a similar story to the archers. They both use the guard deck, but the bandit guards hit harder than the city guards. I think they're hitting at a 3-4. So it's like the flip.
Okay.
The script is flipped, but then they've got 2 shield on elite and 1 shield on normal. And I think the bandits have only 1 shield on elite and none for normal at the same difficulty. Which I thought was really interesting. But yeah, it's kind of like I thought these guys were going to be bad, like the archers. And then I was like, hang on a second, I'm thinking bandit archers. Because the normals also aren't that bad either. Our allied ones that we resurrected in that toxic one were normal, I think.
Yeah.
And they were crap.
True. Yeah, they were hard. They were like Algox archers from Frosthaven.
That's what it felt like.
They were just pumping. And I think it was just very lucky because where the positioning was, I was able to stand next to them and make sure that they couldn't move because a lot of the time they only had move one,
Mm,
and so they couldn't move to get out of disadvantage.
yeah.
And also I've got my helmet that means the plus ones are zeros. So I was able to tank them pretty well, even though they were piercing through all of my shields.
Yeah.
But I had a couple of ward plays and stuff like that. So yeah, but they were scary. They were drawing big numbers, and so I was just like, oh, I just make sure these are pointed at me.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting because we had recently the toxic trait thing, and we were talking about how effective that will be because it munches your shield. You can't gain shield. And we were like, yeah, but we don't really have a lot of shields, et cetera, et cetera. And then whatever tiny shield we did have, these archers didn't give a crap about it. So
yeah,
don't bother with shield anymore,
no, apparently not.
which
So
is interesting over a tanking topic later on. Just quickly, before we jump to our thoughts, did you miss the chain guard in a scenario like this, you think?
I think as a party we did, right? Like you could definitely see a level 8 chain guard being pretty good in here. And it also was interesting me frontlining with myself because I have found that to be semi ineffective and not having another person there or something to
You did
kind
a
of put.
phenomenal job.
I just didn't die. That's basically all I did. I just stood there and just like got punched while everyone else killed everything.
Well,
So
you pinned the archers in the corner and also the artillery, so they were always basically going to get disadvantage on you, which I thought was really clever and really cool. It's just a shame you didn't
yeah,
have any
no, no,
retaliate.
Telly. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I think so. Like, the Chain Guard is a fun character to play and have playing in the scenario. It's also pretty powerful and effective. So I definitely think we missed it. The only thing is the way that Mark was playing it towards the back end was with a lot of traps.
Mm,
I really don't think the scenario would have been great for that because it was tight corridors, small rooms. We've got at 3, 4 melee classes plus some pets. I don't think that having less spaces to maneuver would have been good. So it probably just means that he goes harder into the swinging things into walls and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
yeah. No,
What
good
about you?
call.
Thoughts?
Yeah. Thoughts on Mark on the chain helm?
Yeah.
Do we have time?
In a word though, like missed or not?
Uh, a little bit. I think a little bit. I liked how deep he would just charge into things, and I like the fact that I do miss the movement. So as in of force movement. Swing was very, very cool, and it's weird not having access to swing anymore to move things into different positions. Although towards the latter part of him playing it, he didn't actually really have to swing much because things were just dying.
Yeah.
So yeah. But no, very cool character. I do miss it a little, but I'm excited to, play with different characters. What were your thoughts on Scenario 9?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool for what is essentially a kill all, right? Kill
Mm,
all and then loot a tile at the end. I like the addition of the extra room. So kill all visible monsters.
hmm
And the monster combination was very simple but really effective, right?
Yeah.
Like it just lined up. The exception being the bear, which makes no sense at all in that lineup unless you know the scenario fluff, right? And what's happening, then it makes complete sense. And that was a kind of cool little twist to a kill all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think all in all, it was good.
Yeah. I think it was decent. I think like the bear probably made it very memorable. I think we'll remember it for that part. Without it, it becomes a little bit more like just a passable kind of scenario with
Yeah,
nothing overly special, right?
yeah,
But
totally. It's a 6 or 7 out of 10, right? Like
totally.
it's not gonna make either of my top 10 or bottom 10 lists. I mean, if we did a top 10 kill all scenarios with a bear in it, it probably makes that. But
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. What about Ormi?
I think he's probably fine if we play around him because I think that he probably just gets stuck and doesn't move forward all that much.
Yeah, I think he would actually be fairly good on this. He will help out a fair bit, especially in that first room because of that V shape, and we split into two parties. he would be quite handy on one of the sides helping out. And I mean, look, he probably would have stomped on your colony at one stage, but he'd get +1 to all his attacks if he went your way as well, which would be
That's
pretty cool.
true. Yeah, that's true.
I think an escort of some kind, an escort or an ally, would suit you. Just next to you or around you, maybe. Just because of those
Maybe.
ally retaliate kind of cards and maybe a bit of healing and forcing it to do an attack. Although it doing an attack with its monster AMD is probably not as good as another player.
If we did an Ormi, like if we pulled, hey, Ormi's joining you for this scenario, I would take a couple of cards I don't usually take. One of them being the heal 5, range 3, the target gains immobilize. Because then I could pull him out of trouble, top him up, and say, you stay there for a turn. Like don't go anywhere.
I love that card. We don't see that
Yeah.
card enough.
Oh, I don't use it because I don't want to give people immobilize because I just there's never really a time that it works well.
There is if we
Right.
plan around it. Like if we know
Yeah,
it's coming, we get immediately a move that allows us to do potentially a top and a bottom attack. Or it could be really good on someone like Phil, who plays a lot of bottom persistence.
That's true. That's true. It seems a bit there is the case if I go first and do it, then the immobilize will drop off and people can go. Yeah, but it does take some planning, and that's also why I'm always a little bit hesitant to play. I think it's Maddening Chatter or whatever, something like that, which gives an ally retaliate 3, but they also gain muddle. So I'm kind of like with Mark, it was always like, are you attacking this turn? He's like, nah. I'm like, oh, great, cool. Well, muddle doesn't matter. So
Would that work when it says ally? We're on the amDirt diaries now because we're obviously talking about the characters and all that kind of stuff. When it says ally, would that work on Mark's Tusk mounts?
yeah, I believe so. I don't think it says character ally.
That could be cool because he could just jump off a mount, go do other things, leave it next to you, and yeah, you could like I think he's got a turtle or a tortoise, and then you could really use it and muddle it to give it the retaliate and all that kind of stuff, which would be really cool.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that I'm just double checking now. But seeing the allies in the scenario, again with on the Tusks, we haven't really touched on that, but having the summons did kind of trigger a little bit with me in that scenario. Like, okay, there might be a little bit of benefit for me to playing with the colonies a little bit more, because them getting the heal or the shields or the retaliate and things like that. So yeah, there might be some options to bring the grant allies things
Yeah, okay.
because they're going to be up there.
So we'll start with the Beetle then. We'll go into that. You said you didn't bring a lot of retaliate cards in. So what was the goal? Is it playing around colonies? Was it playing around burning stingers? What were you trying to try out?
Yeah, so I hit level 4, I think it was. Was it 4?
Are you only 4?
Yes.
I thought you were 5.
Yeah, I'm only 4. Nah, I'm only 4. Remember? Not class defining yet. And I got terrible XP that time as well, so it's going to be a while. So at level 4, I got an option between 2 new colony cards, and I went with the one that gives me another fire spitter ant. So that basically gives me a colony that adds +1 attack to me and allies, anyone who's adjacent to this colony, for their melee attacks. Right, all melee attacks as well. So it's like PowerPoint. It's busted.
Yeah.
Now that meant, and I haven't really played into the colonies much. I've really only been taking the bees for the heal, and they've got a good move. But that meant I was going to try more colony stuff. So I brought the other ant one, which is the retaliate, because I wanted to have 2. Because the idea being that I can play this one to put the colony down, right? And then I have a second colony card that I can play to put out the colony if I need to, or vice versa. Because it doesn't matter. It's about which one's active. It doesn't matter which one I use to play, because an ant colony is an ant colony. And whichever of the colony cards I have active, both of those colonies are going to get the bonuses. So because now I have the option of taking 2 colonies of one type, I was like, okay, maybe we can focus into this a little bit more. And it kind of worked and it kind of didn't. I think I got some more data for my head to figure it out. But that's why I took less. I dropped a card, and the card I dropped was my. I've been playing it basically since I started the Retribution of the Hive, which is Retaliate to Self, Great Fire.
Yeah, okay.
And it gives me an XP, so that's where some of my XP didn't come from. So because I didn't have that card, I didn't have any way of giving myself good self-retaliate other than the top of my level 2 card, which I use quite a bit, Clad in Spikes, which gives me the retaliate 4 at range 4.
Yeah.
Now that worked quite well because the archers and the cannons were ranged.
Yes.
So that's why that wasn't terrible.
No, that was good.
And then I actually towards the end ended up making pretty good use of the top of Sentry Swarm.
That's the persistent one, isn't it?
Yeah, it gives me 6 triggers of Retaliate 2 at range 4.
Yeah.
So I was able to, between those two, still get out some Retaliate damage, which was good, which meant I was doing more than just standing in the way. I was standing in the way and actually doing some damage. But again, if I was to rerun that scenario, like if we were like, hey, let's do it again, right? For some stupid reason, I probably definitely take Retribution of the Hive for the top Retaliate, but then I also probably take Horned Carapace, which gives me a move 2 and bottom Retaliate. Because it means then I'm probably being able to get myself, 2 to 4 Retaliate most turns and really start dropping them. So yeah, that's kind of what I learned.
Yeah, okay. Looks cool. Like, yeah, because when you say when you said you dropped all your retaliate cards, you meant mostly the most spammable one that you would use consistently, the bottom move to create fire one, right? You still had the others, but they're a little bit more like Clad and Spike is once, and the other one is a burn. So yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And I still had my ones that grant an ally retaliate. So I still had those, but I did not have. Well, I had one of those, but it didn't really find a lot of use. So,
got you.
Yeah, it was just trying to play around that a little bit more. And I think I need to. I don't know. I need to figure out what I can do.
I thought this worked out really well. I think the only thing that you probably are saying is that you obviously want to fit potentially that other card that you didn't take, Retribution of the Hive. You want to bring that, but then what comes out, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And I think now that I've got more HP, I've also got better access to grass to try and trigger anti-venom, the heal, which gives me an extra 2. Plus now, and this is one thing we can talk about briefly with the Tusks, Mark has kind of gone a support-ish, summonish build, and he did so much healing. Like, so much healing. And he pretty much did it off one card. If not, maybe he's got a second one. But he did a great job. Like, I know I got a couple of fat heals. He came to and saved you. So between me having extra HP, Mark actually having some heals, like to throw out there. Plus, I've now got a healing potion and that unstable mixture or whatever it's called, the one that heal 5 then poisons me. I can probably go a bit harder on the retaliate cards because I have the HP to actually survive.
That's a good point.
And that's probably what's changed a little bit. But I actually think I'm going to drop Burning Stingers. I know that seems really good, and three attack ones targeting 3. I almost never have the fire up, and I wrongly read it when I was picking my cards, which you picked up on when I first used it, that it doesn't benefit from the new +1 to attack because it's only melee. So the reason I was going to not bring that, but I was going to bring the retaliate card instead. But I was like, oh no, I can stack this and I can give myself attack 2, but I can't because that would be cheating. So if I'm going to play by the rules, then that combo doesn't work. So
Look,
I might actually drop that one.
If you're playing for fun and you want to have fun, that's the goal. We can make it happen, guys.
Yeah, house rule.
Yeah.
So
we have the power.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at. I still have no idea what I'm doing, but now I will rework around a new party composition and see what I can do.
Yeah, I like that. There's always tweaking, which is cool. I think that if you had set up after 2 scenarios and you already had like an exact way of how you were playing it, I think that you may run into a situation where, it's just not challenging you enough.
100%. And I found the same thing with the Galaxy. There was a 1 or 2 card like flex each scenario where I was still trying to work out the optimal kind of combo of what I was able to get off, what I was like magical taking this card for magical Christmas land, like, oh,
Mm.
happens and this happens, this is going to be amazing, but I would carry it through 3 scenarios and never use it. So then I was like, okay, well, that's not going to happen. Let's see what I can do. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, nice.
What about you? How's your bleeding claw?
I need to tweak my opener. So when I say that, I've got the item, the dual razor, whatever that gives me advantage, provided whatever I'm attacking for 3 attacks gives me advantage on if they have a condition. Sorry, is what I'm trying to say. So every time I attack something, if I've provided they've got charges on this thing, I get advantage, and that would be really handy on a very, very important strike. A lot of my burns are big, heavy hitting attacks, but they're burns, right? So it's an attack, like most of them are attack 5s, which are great. But this one with Savage Stalker gives me the +3. And not having advantage for that first swing. And this is the other thing. When I say opener, I've been talking to myself about this. It's like I need to get in there early because it's undamaged, right? Undamaged. It gives me +3. But it still works if they die and they're lower on health. So if something's already taken damage, and I forget that that's a thing. I'm just looking at the number.
Yeah.
Attack 8 is good, but you don't always need that. If round 3 comes around and there's an opportunity to use something that's nearly dead, and it'll most likely by that stage have a condition on it, I still get to then hit it for 5 and then have a high chance of killing it, which then lets me go invis and sated for then the following turns. And that's something I've had to tweak in my head. I think the +3 is a bait, and it's a good bait, and one that actually makes sense. It'll go off more times than it shouldn't, but I think sometimes it can lead you down a narrow corridor, and that's how I was playing that in that scenario. And I probably need to remember that it's a lot more flexible than I'm giving it credit for.
I think, yeah, that's a really good point. And the other thing as well is if you are hitting something that's damaged and you're losing the +3, but it has been hit and it's got a condition on it, so you're giving yourself advantage.
Yes.
There's a good chance that attack 5 is more like an attack 6.
Yes.
Right, on average, or at least you stop it from going to an attack 4. So it could mean that you can just be more consistent with like, oh, this thing's got 5 health. Okay, I can pretty much kill it.
Completely.
Right. So yeah, okay, cool.
And if
just quickly on that one because it links to that. There is a potion. I don't know if it's in Crimson Scales, but I don't know if it's in Frosthaven that does poison.
Oh,
right?
That would apply before the attack. No, it doesn't apply before the attack because then it would. No, Poison Dagger doesn't.
I didn't say Poison Dagger. You're not listening.
I'm not.
There's a potion. A potion.
Yes. Okay.
That applies poison. It's only one use, so it's not like the dagger. You can't keep reusing it, but you're really only trying to link it with this one card. So you would move up to it, and then you use the potion and puts poison on something adjacent.
Yeah. Okay.
And then has poison, and then you attack with advantage. It would essentially be +1 as well.
Yeah.
So if there are, I mean, I'm just wondering if in Crimson Scales there is a equivalent we've got where there's a potion, not an item,
like a bag item.
Yeah, like a bag item that puts a condition on something adjacent. That would be your workaround to making that card work all the time to get your advantage.
The main issue is that I was within 4 range of the target I wanted to kill. I've got a lot of move 3s, and I think there's one move 3 that applies Rupture to an adjacent target, so that would have done it for me, but I didn't have that extra move. So that's more reason why I was all in on the move 4 and only draw 1. That's fair. Yeah, so it's otherwise normally, yes, it would be a move 3 Rupture, gives me advantage on the top.
Well, you just need the broken boots of do everything you want. Right? Like +2 move, plus jump. That basically means that you can jump anywhere you want.
That would have solved my problem.
Insta kill it. Yeah, there you go.
That would solve many problems.
So many problems. They're the boots of solving problems.
The other thing. No. The other thing is perk choices. I'm level 4 now, and I think I've basically ticked off nearly every battle call from memory, recent memory, and doing well with the ticks there. There are so many perks that I want. Like the AMD ones are really important to thin out the deck, and there are so many there. It's not like remove 2 -1s from your deck. It's remove 1 and replace it with this. I want to just remove everything ASAP, and the -1s and the +0s. and that's something I'm slowly chipping through now, which is good. There's another one that's the non-AMD perk, which is after something you rupture, something you can perform a move one. That's amazing, but I haven't got it yet because I'm like, oh, AMD, and I'm too button memeing every time I get a perk. So that's been a little bit tricky, but I'm looking forward to continuing to improve that. And I keep seeing the rolling modifier ones. There's a healing self one in there as well that I'm wanting, just for those times that if I rupture or wound myself. So yeah, I like the fact that there are so many that I want, as opposed to, well, it's obvious which ones I want. I'm just gonna start picking them in order. This is really having me scratch my brain. I'm enjoying that decision making process, which has been cool. And I guess the last point in my Bleeding Claw diaries is items. Boots and chests I still don't have, and I mentioned that last week. I don't really want to buy them, guys. I just want free ones.
You just want free shit.
So I'm just waiting for a chest piece. I'm waiting for a drop. So, yeah, I know I could get something that'll help me with a bit of survivability, even if it's just the hide armor or just anything. And boots of just any boots.
Just buy the lightweight boots. They're only 40 gold.
Oh,
You can
I know.
afford that.
I haven't been looting as much. I was at the start, but the last few scenarios, well, the last scenario definitely not. I was more trying to get in there, and I think that's probably because, you know, trying to plan around Sated, and I'm looking at burst damage. That seems to appear to be me and Phil as well. But he's got a way more reliable way of picking up loot with the bottom of that move 4, loot 2 loot tokens as he goes over. And when he's got the orb of agility, he's jumping at the same time. So it's really handy.
Yeah.
So yeah, more loot, more money. Yeah, I get the light speed boots. But at the same time, do I really want 2 broken items, guys? I don't really.
Why not? You can collect them all,
I
right?
feel like I'm just accidentally building a really bust character and then playing it, okay. But yeah, Bleeding Claws is good. It's fun. It's definitely fun. I like that I've had a few lows now because I like a roller coaster chaotic kind of, play style.
Which is crazy because you were talking about your last scenario as a low, but you absolutely killed it. Like outside of like booking that first action, which is not your fault, it's RNG and mostly my fault. And then the second one, which you just got screwed by RNG, I think it was still the right decision. You still did amazing and you killed lots of stuff and did so much damage. So like you're like,
Yeah, but
only
they
being
felt like run of the
really
mill
good.
attacks. They felt like, like the standard stuff. Those other ones that I was doing felt like the plays. And that's what made it annoying, is that I was 0 for 2 out of the plays. But with I'm sated and I'm next to this and I have Fatal Frenzy, I'm going to hit it twice. I mean, it's not the most exciting thing in the world.
No, it's not. And that's the thing. I think your bread and butter is, doing that, is doing lots of attacks, while you're sated, getting those bonus attacks and doing a shitload of damage that way. Yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah, you kind of drop short of getting the big plays done. But good thing is your normal, like, hey, I'm just going to be effective because, I'm playing well.
Completely.
Fine, so.
And I just leveled up, and we were talking about this at the end of the pod, about the Lion Weight and Ravenous Roar, my level 4 options. One of them very rupture centric, and it's got the loot 1 bottom, move 3, and then the other one, which is the heal 3 empower, and the bottom of that is the invis, which was hilarious because I was like, reliable invis. And then you lie in wait. The next time an enemy, ends its turn adjacent to you this round, you may remove the invis to perform an attack too, which is really cool. And we just needed some clarification also, and I probably should just ask, but it's just cooler just to ask on this, whether or not that's something that we can selectively, what was the discussion we had? We selectively not choose to use it until the right time. So the next
time. Yeah, okay.
Ends its turn adjacent to you this round, you may remove invis to perform an attack too. So it's the word may that makes me think that I'm like, no, I'm not doing it now. Oh, that one's moved it. That one I want. That's the one I want to hit. But
yeah, that's good. I mean, we may as well just throw that out now that they get clarity on it, or seek it. But yeah, that does seem like a good card.
Yeah. So things looking good.
What about
Tusks?
What about Tusks?
Tusks are good. I like the Tusk. I like Mark on the Tusks. I actually was not too sure how he was going to go with it, because you know what? Tusks, I think, is when we first saw the cards, that was probably one of the shorter unboxings we've done because of the lack of symbols and things on the cards. Like one of these cards, I think it's Skinning Knife. The bottom of that is literally loot one.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's just loot one. And it got me thinking about, no, oh my God, this thing's so plain. It's so whatever. But the magic of the mount system brings it to life. Because all of a sudden, it's a move two loot one, right? Depending on what kind of mount you're on. And then switching in and out of the pets thing is really cool. Like, really cool. And the fact that he's got resurrection to bring back his pets means he's not attached to them and we're not suddenly going to all protect, the pets kind of mode. He can feel a little bit more reckless with them and feel like he can get them out, willy-nilly.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all that. I do foresee some situations where he's going to lose mounts that he didn't want to lose and he's going to get super tilted because that's what happens, right? That's what makes
100% what
summons.
happens.
That's what makes summon characters really tricky because they're kind of always on that knife's edge of like any turn RNG can just mess you up.
You went through that with Prism, that feeling sometimes if you lost a bot.
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. And I think the thing is that that's one of the things I learned by the end of that was I needed to be a little bit more reckless with how I played because it didn't really matter. But you do because you focus everything into this AI controlled kind of ally. And you're like, well, I need it to do things. That's the difference between that and, say, some of the other summon classes, which is just like summon the thing and then the thing goes and attacks,
Yep.
right? And if it dies, you're like, oh, now it doesn't get to do its attacks. But when you have a summon like the mounts and the Prism has it with that and a bunch of the other summon characters from Crimson Scales, I'm sure, but definitely Frosthaven have this where they have synergies that require you to interact with the thing so that you can do something else cool, right? When they die, you're like, oh, now I don't get to do my cool thing, right? So it becomes more than just the numbers.
I was saying it was you. It was actually me on the Astral. That's right. It was. That's the one where every time it died, I was like, oh, because I'm also disarmed. So like, it was like really shit, like really bad.
Yeah.
Are you surprised that he chose to play support? I didn't even think this thing could play support. I didn't even consider it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think he played like he said. I'm like he's going support, but I think it just meant that he took a couple of the cards that were more support-ish.
Yeah.
And I don't. I think at this stage, because we've only seen level 1 and 2, I don't think that or I think he might have started at 3 as well. I think we just that we worked out that he could start at 3, so he's actually seen cards that we haven't seen.
Oh.
I believe. Yeah, probably. Do you want to do it now, or do you want to just do it later?
We'll do it later.
Yeah, cool. Although he might not, I can't remember. I do remember having that conversation because we're using a slightly different variation of like prosperity and what leveling is. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that maybe he would kind of try to go down the riding mounts into battle and screaming like charge.
Yeah.
But I think he's still got that option. He still has the ability to kind of flex. So.
Yeah, it's cool because he's got a like a bird style card, which is really cool. He's got the heals, which is obviously great. He synergizes with you with the elements, which is phenomenal. You guys are helping each other with that. And I guess what I was saying at the start, how the cards seem kind of basic, right? It will scream 1-star difficulty out of 5, but I think it'll have a snowflake kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
Where the cards to understand are so simple, but I think the ceiling is going to be really interesting, really high, and there are so many really flexible and different play styles that you could do with it, that you're not all in on one bucket and you're not all in on one thing, which I didn't consider it when we unboxed it. But seeing him play it like that and thinking about it like the snowflake kind of thing made me think, yeah, I think there's something really cool here.
Yeah, that's a really good point that I didn't consider either. And I think we probably need to give the designers of these more credit to not just design and I'm throwing no shade, but like a Gloomhaven first edition Brute, right? Where like you read the cards, especially from the first edition, and they're very simple because that's the starter class for a new game that nobody's played. You can't make that super complex.
Yeah.
And so looking at some of the cards, as you said, not a lot of symbols, not a lot of complexity to it, but you're right. There is probably some ceiling, like a high ceiling for cool. Can you get it to do something very easily? Yeah, totally. How do you make that more efficient, right? How
Mm,
do you really kind of pump out not just damage and numbers, but like the damage, the supporting, the positioning, like, all that kind of stuff, and
yep.
make that really effective. And that is probably going to be, yeah, pretty complex in that regard. Just to clarify, because I had a quick look, I remember now the conversation now, he didn't take either of the level 3 cards, he took the other level 2 card.
Got you. Because
That's what.
when I edited the playthrough, I didn't actually
Mm.
download the threes to put into the playthrough. So in my head, I was just like, oh, I don't have them, so I don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, he took both ceremonial dance and medicine shield, which I remember when we read, we were both, wow, these are both really good. So he
Mm,
just took them both, right?
yeah, okay.
Which is interesting. So, yeah, cool. But
Awesome.
no, all in all, I'm looking forward to more stuff with the Tusks because again, it's element synergizes well with me because he creates both my elements, and it is going to be interesting having some more frontlining kind of allies in there that are maybe a little bit more disposable. Like, I don't know, if you chuck something up there, I'm like, hey, do you mind if this thing dies? He's like, no. I'm like, cool, I'm going to give it retaliate 5 today, right? And then it can just sit there and take a couple of hits and just, you know,
Yeah,
push back damage. So yeah, there's a world where that's kind of an option as
it's
well.
interesting because there's a world where it can also use your colonies like the shield one. I mean, not that you will, but like the shield one and the retaliate one and all of that to coincide with that kind of thing, which is pretty cool. All right, let's jump into our topic of the week, the tank roll.
Hmm.
So we're going to talk about tanking in general, and then we're going to talk about tanking in the Haven series. So we'll start off with tanking in general. How would you define a tank?
You're the character that needs to stand there and take all of the damage.
Yeah, pretty much. Like damage absorption, basically, or mitigation, or you're a frontliner. You're in the meat and guts of combat or the fight.
Yeah, you got to stop. Well, yeah, and I guess then the purpose of that is because most times the other characters, like the damage characters, the healers, whether they're whatever class they are in anything, but the ones that are going to be doing not the tanking part, the killing stuff, should have lower HP and
Mm,
or be more squishy,
yes.
right? The idea. Otherwise, you don't need a tank. So games where there's only one character, right? You may have more tanky characters than others, but usually they need to fill all the roles. Whereas at games that have multiple characters within a party or to achieve certain goals, you generally want to try to funnel some of the damage through certain characters. And then you apply things like they might have their own damage mitigation or self-sustain.
Yeah.
Or maybe they don't, they just have a really big HP pool and they rely on a healer to keep them alive, right? Like
Mm,
they're all the different variations and how it works out. So it becomes more interesting than just character that needs to get hit.
completely. And I like the
Yeah.
bit where you said, healers and DPS are a little bit more squishy. And it got me thinking about where did the term squishy come from and how does that relate to someone who is squishy? Which I know when you say it, I know exactly what you mean. But how does that work? I'm picturing a blueberry or something, but is that squishy? And if it's,
Yeah. Yeah. Compared to the tank, which is a walnut, right?
I suppose, but we don't, yeah, it's just, yeah, squishy.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's a good point. I don't know. Maybe it's just us, but I'm sure that it translates and people understand. But what we essentially mean is that something that is not squishy gets hit, and it's like, ugh. Something that is squishy gets hit, and it just dies.
I think it's
Right?
incredibly widely used. I just don't know if anyone understands the context or how
It
it
just
became that.
goes squish.
Usually we see in traditional sense, there's a bit more of like an aggro management, like trying to literally place yourself or manipulate the situation in such a way that you are the focus. It's not just sort of taking hits and all that kind of stuff. And they also don't really do a lot of damage. Traditionally, they shouldn't, I would say, because obviously you've got damage dealers that have a role. Their job is to ditch the damage. The tank can't do more damage than a damage dealer.
Well,
And I'm
shouldn't.
talking traditionally.
Yeah.
But there have been some interesting situations in World of Warcraft, I think, with some of the borrowed powers where the tanks were out DPSing all the DPS, and it's just like, Blizzard, please, like fix this.
Yeah, and that's a good point because the aggro management. So for people that aren't aware what that means, it's just more of like the monsters or things that are attacking you have a focus, and like they do in Haven, and that is usually based on some kind of threat meter, right? So
Mm.
as you do more things in the party, the monsters want to hit you more, and that's the kind of focus or aggro. And so yeah, a really big part of a lot of games that have a tank role usually have some way for that tank to pull aggro. Now that could be a taunt, which makes things have to hit them, or they can have things that put them in the way of the damage or something like that.
Yep.
I mean, Haven has that built in because it has a focus system that doesn't care who you are, and it never really cares who you are. It's all based on positioning outside of burrowing blades and stuff like that that'll like do the furthest,
Yes.
right? Which then mess that up. But that's so then that becomes like, yeah, the you don't need aggro management from a tank class in Haven because you need to be able to manipulate the existing rules that apply to everyone.
Mm.
But yeah,
The,
it's interesting you say about sorry, just about the damage. Like, yeah, if you're basing threat off just doing damage, that's when things get stupid because it means you make the tanks have to do heaps of damage, which then what's the point of the DPS?
may as well have 5 tanks in there or something. Like,
Correct.
I just don't know. There's also an element of, and I was just thinking a little bit further, peeling. Uh, there's a lot of responsibility when it comes to peeling and intercepting, basically, because there are going to be times that mechanics and games out there will not allow you to hold the aggro a certain way, or that there will be ads and all of that. And it's you're protecting, you're the protector. You need to protect your squishies. So sometimes the squishies are in trouble. It's not just the healer's job to then heal up the squishies and keep them in check. The tanks sometimes will be the ones that need to go in and peel, even though they're tanking something else or something huge and big. So it's cool how it's kind of evolved over time.
So, question: you threw up there squishy and defining that. Tell us about peeling. Like, what a weird word.
I think it's like, yeah, like how you peel a banana. The your ally is the banana without the skin, and then and then the monster suddenly fuses with the ally to become the skin, and now you have to peel the skin off your ally. I feel like is that a thing?
That's exactly what it is, from my understanding. It's just you chose the weirdest version of an analogy, but yeah, that's how I see it. The monster, somebody in the party has done something to make the monster want to stick to them,
Yep.
right? And it is now the tank's job to peel them off.
Yeah, yeah, like a sticker
Yeah,
from
that's
an
right.
apple. Yeah,
From an
we can
apple.
do lots
That's
of
correct.
fruits here. We've already done 3.
Yeah, that's it.
Do you have expectations of your tank, Gaz?
To me
Yeah,
personally, in like in like just games.
yeah, kind of.
I mean, yeah, the expectation is that they do their role, right? Like, when we're breaking these type of things down and we're starting to talk about roles, games that have very clearly defined roles, which are probably your older games because things have evolved a lot since then and they become a lot more convoluted. But yeah, your role is that they will hold aggro and use their abilities to make you not get hit and peel off any banana skins that come your way, right?
Yeah,
Uh, I guess what goes with that though is their expectation that as a non-tank, you won't do the things that are going to over aggro, right? So, not that I play a lot of DPS, but
true.
like if you're playing DPS, don't just push your buttons as hard as you can. You sometimes you need to stop
Threat
pushing them.
management is a two-way
Yeah,
street, right?
yeah.
100%.
As a support player generally though, and we talked about this last week though, that becomes less on you because you can, but you probably shouldn't stop healing people because everyone's taking heaps of damage because that's kind of counterproductive to it. But I mean, there's an element of threat aggro management and stuff like that. It's usually a lot of classes in WoW or whatnot have, right?
Yeah,
Hey, you built up too much aggro. Your responsibility is to use your abilities that drop that back down.
yeah.
To help the tank keep aggro. But yeah.
In a traditional sense, they also take on a leading role. So it's fair to say that sometimes they're the ones that, because they're in the front line, the group doesn't move without them generally moving first, just because they need to take the threat immediately. And I think that sometimes there's a bit more of a leadership area in that. I think that's sometimes split between the actual tank and also a support, because the supports are always at the back, for instance, and they kind of see the whole picture, whereas the tanks can't see that as much. In a traditional sense. In war, I don't know, but like
I
in a
don't know if
fantasy
aggro
setting.
management's a thing in war, is it? Yeah, and I think the interesting thing, because I mean, a lot of these references that we're talking about are very relatable to WoW and WoW adjacent
And
MMO
MMOs,
type
yeah.
things. Yeah, the things where you put together a party of like three, or not three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kind of
40.
characters, and then correct. They have to, or 40, yeah, and they need to work together to kill a thing, right? That's more powerful than any individual. But I think you've also got, like, if you think about Final Fantasy games, for example, right, where you don't have necessarily like, oh, this is the order, or you're going to put all my characters behind here, but you definitely
Mm.
have more tankier characters that have a higher HP, wear heavy armor, and do that kind of thing versus the caster characters that will have more healing abilities or spells. There still is usually some way of putting those characters into the firing line, or again taunting the monsters. It's not 100%. Like, it's not like funnel where you just put the tank at the front and say, well, the monsters can't hit the other people. But every game has its own variation about how they want you to manage that.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing that's a bit different, is that the role, I think, still exists, but it takes different forms. But yeah, you're right. If you're playing a multiplayer game where everyone's playing a different character, then yes, it is usually the tank, because they want to get hit first,
Mm.
right?
Do you
So,
enjoy tanking?
I haven't really done a lot of it. I think this goes along the lines of, I don't know if we touched on this last week, but the reason I play support is because the expectations are lower.
Which is a
Like,
weird thing to say, right? Because you're like, you feel traditionally you're like, as a support, you're the life essence of, if those bars go down, the person's dead,
mm,
right? That should be the most expectation, the highest. What would you say? Priority, expectation.
yeah,
Yeah,
expectation, yeah. Well, the pressure of expectation. Yeah, 100%. And I actually like that from a perspective. So it's not so much that I don't want to be involved, right?
yeah.
But I feel like, I don't know, the tanking side of things has always been, for me, I either haven't known the fights well enough, haven't known
Mm,
the dungeons well enough, haven't been wanting to be in that lead kind of position. I find that, I don't know, like, you're talking about those type of games, or generally it's like the leader people are usually the ones that are like, I know the most. I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy.
yeah,
So
completely
I'll
fair.
let someone else. But yeah, I think I have liked it sometimes. Like, I remember playing it in bits and pieces in WoW. I do, like, we talk about Haven. I've played a lot of tanky characters, right? I played a couple specifically. So I do like that style of play. And if we're thinking about even solo RPGs, I do like building tanky characters that either have a lot of damage mitigation, retaliate style kind of. I do like that build, but I suppose it's just more if we're picking roles.
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't usually pick that one.
So it's interesting. It's like you enjoy it. Like, if we separate the tabletop side of tank, it's a completely different thing compared to the video game
Mm,
side of it. Because I'm in the same boat as you. I like the idea of it. I like the idea of playing every role and every character and dabbling with a little bit of everything, because it just helps me understand everything. I
mm,
always like the idea of tanking, but the pressures of having to run or feel like, and that's probably a thing that's been built up in the game culture, right?
yeah.
It's not built into the game as, oh, whoever's your tank is your leader, but that's just an expectation that the community wrapped around a game is going to present. So yeah, I always find that sometimes, can get my anxiety going, and it's like, I always worried about making a mistake. Whereas you're less likely to be yelled at if you're a DPS. You're also playing with other DPS, so if you aren't as good, they'll pick it up. You've only got one tank, so it's
Yeah.
pretty nerve wracking, right? But like you in the Haven series, I don't know actually. I've only really done it once, and I didn't really like it. But I think that was the character.
Oh, blaming the character that everyone
Blaming the
loves.
character. Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Haven series tanking. Does
Well,
it
I mean,
exist?
sorry.
Does it exist?
Yeah, I think the role exists. or more the play style exists within certain characters that you can utilize. I don't think that it has the same holy kind of trinity style like tank DPS healer, or your D&D style fighter mage cleric like rogue. I don't think it has that same reliance, and the game can't, because it can't work like that.
No.
You can be any characters at any stage in most combinations, and if some don't work, then the game doesn't work.
Yes.
So I think that in Haven, it's more based on I want to play the game like this, and
Yeah.
therefore then you take upon that role,
Well
right?
said.
Like you can go in having 4 DPS or 4 supports or 4. It probably doesn't work as well if you go, hey, I want multiple people who all want to tank, because sometimes the damage mitigation is also coming back with a retaliate build. It's usually the way that that's linked, and too many people, I think, doing that would just dilute it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's definitely like a role.
Yeah. That's true. I think that I like your point on, because I think Mark mentioned this earlier on when we were playing Frosthaven, like we need a tank. And because he is probably the most driven into that Triforce mindset from his history with MMOs and all that kind of stuff. And he was saying that, and I'm like, we were saying, oh, this game doesn't, like, he knows the game, but it was like, it's not seen as we need a tank. We don't need a tank. We don't need a healer. And we proved that after we got past that initial thought process. Like I wasn't playing a supportive Snowflake in Frosthaven. So I wasn't healing. And we've gone through instances where we didn't have a healer. We've done that recently once you retire the Galaxy, right? When you retire the Galaxy, we didn't have anyone doing healing, but we have to make that work. So I like the fact that the game, it allows you to really play however play style you want within. I mean, look, anyone can be anything in that game, but you're going to do it at varying levels of success. But the fact that it's still there and you can make it work, and the game will allow it to make it work, even on a lower difficulty, that you can run, 4 people with mostly heal cards, which I don't think exists. But yeah.
I think, like, if we think about just the characters we've seen, if you made a party up of, say, the Flask, the Galaxy, Tusks, and say, what are you on at the moment? Bleeding Claw. That very much would be a party that would need to make smarter decisions about their positioning. And I think that's what that ends up coming down to. I think there's a lot across those 4 characters. There's heaps of support. Like, there's so much support. And the damage is mostly going to be funneled through the Bleeding Claw. But, like, you don't have the luxury of just throwing someone forward and going like, we don't have to worry about the monsters this turn, right? Like the last scenario we just did with me playing Beetle, there was a couple of rounds there for the first 2 or 3 rounds where I was like, guys, that's fine. I'm fine. I'll just stand here and get hit a bunch, right? But you guys deal with the other half of the room and then just come over here. Like, and that second room we got to was the same thing. I'm like, I'm going to go stand next to the archers and the cannon. Can you guys then just figure out how to kill everything, but I'll just stand there. So that worked, right? But if I had been on the Galaxy instead of being on the Beetle, we still would have made it work.
Correct.
Right? But none of us have high HP. But it just means that instead of us all going in deep in that room, we've got to find more clever ways of playing our classes. And that's not to say that tank lets you be dumb, but it means that it enables a certain play style, just like having healers, right?
Yeah.
We talked about having support. Once you have heals, it unlocks a certain play style. So I think that's the great thing about Haven is it all flows through, but you've got to figure out how to solve the puzzle with the pieces you've got.
Yep.
And that's your character, but then it's also the party, and then it's also within the scenario. And I don't know if people talk about that enough, of being such an amazing combination of decision making that, is probably why it's so fun to play.
And replay. Which
the replay, right?
I think I was talking to someone recently about, the replayability of it. Once I finished Gloomhaven originally, I was like, there's no real... Oh, no, I wrote it in the Discord. There was no real thing to replay it again. And all of a sudden, since meeting the community and talking to so many people and meeting Haven-centric people who love the game to this kind of extent where there's conversations and talking about it, it's just made me go, wow, that sounds really cool. I want to try that character now, and I want to try that combination now and do that scenario now. So, yeah. I like the fact that the game has allowed that. It gives you all the tools to create that. Let's go through maybe some classes and talk about maybe the ways that they tank and whether or not they can tank in our earlier discussion of what a tank is. So I've got Frosthaven characters here first, at least the ones that I played, similar to what we did last week. Because even though I know roughly what other characters do, there may be niche cards in there that allow them to do this that I don't know about, right? I'll use the media, for example. The media has some incredibly niche cards. There's one early card, right? There's one very, very early card that's like a shield 1, retaliate 1. But then later on, I think level 6, they've got some obsidian shield card, which is a persistent card that allows them to have another shield. And then at the very, very end, if I bring it up very quickly, at level 9, one of his level 9 cards is Stone Armor. Whenever you would suffer damage, you may destroy an adjacent obstacle to negate the damage. Right? So it's almost like, and the bottom of it is a move 3 jump, where shield X, where X is the number of different hexes with obstacles or objectives, which is really cool. So it's like, I don't think it's a tank. It's just interesting that it's got some cards here that say, hey, if you want to try a little bit of this or incorporate a little bit of this in your reckless play style, there is some of this. And I only happen to know this because I was playing the media. So yeah, in my little thing here, Drifter obviously has some persistence with everything, retaliate, shield, and then later on it's actually got a power creep one that's shield 2 instead of the original shield 1. Look, shield is the most basic tanking tool. Attack is the most basic attacking tool, and the same thing with the heal, right? It's the Triforce.
Just quickly, because and this links into what we're going to go in. We talked about this with support, how there isn't really a lot of hard support characters, but a lot of characters have support abilities, and that might be having a heal, having a status effect, or having a buff. I think you're right, and the media that you just went through is a perfect example of that, where some characters have the ability to go, I'm going to reduce the amount of damage I'm taking, right? And I think that means that if you do end up with a party like a Blink Blade, a Meteor, I don't know, let's say Shards and Kelp, right? Who don't sound very tanky, right? I've just picked 4 characters, but between the 4 of them, they all probably have some ability to reduce damage. Maybe the Meteor in that party lineup needs to line more into difficult terrain and those tanky cards because they don't have a lot of other characters to take it, because you're going to get hit, right? It doesn't matter how you play. Most of the time, you're going to get hit. Someone is, right? It's very hard to just say no one take any damage for this scenario.
Completely. It's like defensive cooldowns. Every character in WoW has one. Every class has a defensive cooldown. You just know when to pop it. Some just happen to have a lot more than others. Right? So, yeah. No, it's a good point.
Yeah. Good point on that. And the Drifter, exactly. So the Drifter's way is it does have some of those cards, right? It doesn't have anything where you'd say, like, well, you're going to play this as a front line, only the one to get hit, because it doesn't have enough or reliable, right? Because they drop off too quickly. But it has bursts, right? It has bursts where it can self-sustain and block damage.
Yeah.
Right. But then it needs to go away and do something else.
I was just thinking about our time on the Drifter forever ago in the realm of Endless Frost, when I was like, oh, I got my new shield card, my level 2, and I went real deep in, and this added a whole layer of complexity to the Drifter, because then I proceeded to take 6 attacks, and my token went boop, 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 and it fell off, and I was like, uh-oh. Like, the card was gone, and the whole thing of the Drifter is moving it back and forth to keep it in play. But yeah, it like, you don't think about that until it happens, and you're like, oh yeah, every time I get hit, that's moving. So yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
Shackles was cool. It retaliate. It's tanking with its burst healing, which is weird, right? Because it's like it's health pool. Its health pool is what it's tanking with. It's got a lot of, and then it does a lot of damage with mitigation and with damage migration or damage redirection of taking the damage and then distributing it elsewhere and all of that. So would you categorize Shackles as a tank or?
I think it's tanky because, I mean, one of its traits, the 2 ticker, increases HP by 5, right? Like, and so that takes it from, I'm just looking at the chart now, like at level 1, it's got 8. So it goes 8, 9, 11. So it's like that medium health, right? Not high, not low. If we take a level 5, like you got 19 health at level 5. right, with that perk. Even if you look at the tankier characters, right, at level 5, they have 18. So you've actually got more health than the
Yeah.
tanky characters. So you're probably not building items into it, which is the other thing we haven't really talked about at all, because that's also kind of how you build into your playstyle. But yeah, I'd say the shackles is tanky, and I think as you mentioned, and this is a completely different side of playing a tanky character, is like, well, how are you going to contribute damage wise?
Mm.
Right, that's what the shackles does. So it can take a lot of damage. It self heals really quickly, and then it spits that damage back out. So yeah, I'd say it's tanky. It's a tanky character.
All right. What about Geminate? This is what I'll share with you. Maybe I'll
Well,
wait for it to get to your classes, and then I'll end mine with the Geminate, and you can start yours with it because
oh, true.
it's got
Yeah,
some
because
cards
we
in there,
both did
right?
it.
Astral definitely did have some. It had a lot of. It had one card in there that I probably one of the first few cards that I remember seeing, which was that one of like step in front of a hit, which I thought was really cool. Why? Where's my? There it is. What's it called? Emeralds, Bounty of the Earth. No, I mean there's already another shield there. It was a unique card that allowed it to take a hit.
Wasn't that an item?
No,
Because you kept talking about taking your pants off.
that was different.
Okay.
That is a thing with the pants thing. Oh, here all enemies within attack. I think it's the bottom of Stoic Vigilance. That's the one. It goes at a 12. Move 1.
Yep.
All enemies within range 3 that target one of your adjacent allies with an attack this round target you with that attack instead, regardless of the attack range. Which I thought was cool. But yeah, that's a tank, right? You would dare say that the Astral is definitely has a tank play style. It's probably the best way to word it, right?
Yeah.
And then yeah, I've got Geminate. Because Snowflake, like I left them off the list. Snowflake really has nothing that I can see. It's got a lot of healing and a lot of stuff that's ally related. It's literally got a card that grants other people shield and all that kind of stuff. But I dare say it can't at all. And I think that's everything I played, right?
Yeah, and I know people will mention this because it is relevant to the conversation. If we're talking about damage mitigation as a scenario, right? Not then that's a different conversation to what we're kind of mentioning. So, for example, the Snowflake can throw a lot of difficult terrain out, which mazes monsters and moves them around and pushes them. So
Hazardous, yeah.
Hazardous, sorry. Yeah. So you have the ability to mitigate damage within the scenario by using those abilities. We're not really talking about that. That's kind of more control-y / supporty in the kind of way we were discussing it. So
Totally.
but yeah, just to be clear, when people say like, oh, on the Snowflake, I made sure no one ever took any damage. You're like, yeah, totally. Right. But you didn't do it in a tank sense from you taking it, directing it at you, and or mitigating it in some way.
I think we made it fairly clear how we were tackling this topic, right? No, this is not at you. I'm just saying we've made it fairly clear how we were tackling this topic. So if people comment us like that, it's like no. We've gone down the tank support and
and still come at us, please, and let us know your thoughts. But just so that people, again, you skip Snowflake, and people will be like, nah, it's a great tank. Was there anything else?
Geminate was the last one. I can't remember it because it was so late and I didn't play a lot of it. But there were some cards in there that I remember you playing it and you felt like you had rounds of tankiness, shield when only in melee form and things like that. And it had a lot of retaliate. It really seems like a jack of all trades, a little bit of everything. Bit of a mess. But it's the bottom. Icebound Quills has literally got a shield and a retaliate on it. I know it had some burns in there as well. It's just got so many cards and so many options that I'm wondering whether or not it can be played in the tanky way.
I think this is the perfect example of a character that has some cards that allow it to do it. You can pick and choose. It brings so many more cards into the scenario, and you can work out what you want to do with them. So, for example, you're looking at the Scarab Flight, right? The top is a range attack. So this is a range form card, right? The top is a range attack.
That's
in a
the
line.
one, yeah.
Whereas the bottom is a persistent that gives you 1 shield or 2 shields if you're in melee. Now, if you use this That's only got 4 triggers, and there's no way that I know of with the Geminate to be able to trigger get your persistence to go backwards. So yeah, for a burst, it can be tanky, but then you're also then losing the opportunity of making use of one of your ranged attacks. So there's the Geminate, I think, can pick and choose how it's going to do, and it's probably going to do everything, including tanking in bursts if it
Yeah.
needs to,
It's like round
right?
by
But it's
round almost, right? It's like,
yeah.
what are we doing this round? Do you want me to tank it this round? Do you want me to heal this round? And like, it's cool that it's got that. It's not going to go from beginning to end under that playstyle. It's constantly shifting, probably, which is
Yeah,
part
that's
of it.
it. And I mean, if you have that persistent up, and then you play the bottom of Icebound Quills, having 3 shield and retaliate 1 for like the next 4 attacks for that round is huge, right? Like you're basically going to mitigate almost everything that comes through, like a fair chunk of it. So yeah, in a round or over a short burst, it could be very tanky. But I wouldn't say that the tank playstyle is one of the options on the Geminate. In fact, I don't think there are play options or like lines on the Geminate. I think it's just do whatever you want, right? So yeah, I don't know. That's probably to start my list. If I started the Geminate because that was one of my first ones, I did take that little 3 card, I think it was. Venomous Bard, level 2. So that's a
Ah,
retaliate 2,
yes.
range 2. If you disarm yourself, it makes it retaliate 3 and range 3, which is pretty good. And then you gain an XP. Now I took that mostly because I wanted heaps of XP because I was struggling to get any because I didn't realize I had to burn all of my cards.
Yeah.
But that's an example of, now that's not a tank character, but that's me saying I want to get hit for a turn by everything, right? And there's
Which
dish
you would
out
tell
heaps of
us
damage.
as well when you were doing it. So we knew.
I'll be like, I'm going really deep and I'm going to get hit by everything. So yeah.
What else did you have?
Sorry, I
Is
kind of
Coral a
jumped in
tank?
there. What was that? Sorry.
Is Coral a tank?
Is Coral a tank? The way I played it, yes. And that was mostly because you can have 2 persistent shields on at all times, right? Well, I say it on at all times using the mechanic of the character. So you essentially should have at least 1 up all the time. And yeah, so I played it like that. I played the Coral in a way that had shields up all the time, a bunch of retaliate. All of my items were geared towards tanking, and then when I long rest, you get extra shields for that turn. Then you get all your tanky items back, and then you can go do it all again. Plus having really high HP.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, interestingly enough, we talked about Shackles and its tankiness. I wouldn't say it's a tank, but it has tankiness abilities. But
Totally.
talking about how it spits back damage, the thing with the Coral was that it gets to play extra cards. So, like, it's an interesting one because it doesn't have to invest or actively be doing tanking things. So, like, I found that's why one of the reasons I liked it as a tank was that I could set up my tank cards in the first couple of turns and then run around. And if things didn't pull attacks, they all decide they want to do their non-attack abilities. I didn't feel sad. I wasn't like, oh no, they're not hitting me because my turn wasn't about being tanky. That I did that 2 turns ago,
Yeah.
which is cool because it meant a better experience for the player. And that's one of the issues with these tank characters is that you funnel your things into being real tanky and they go, no, I'm just going to muddle you this turn. You're like, well, that was cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Tank life.
who was after my Coral? Was the Banner Spear?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, cool. I think the Banner Spear can be played as a tank. Again,
Oh,
there
it's
was
got that
someone on
ult,
Reddit.
right? It's got that perk. Totally, though. Yes.
Yeah, it can. It's got a decent amount of cards that give it shield. It's got cards that give other people shield.
Is one of the banners a shield?
I believe so. Yes, the banner of
Shield.
courage.
Oh, okay.
All adjacent, yeah, banner of shield, yeah. So all adjacent allies. So yeah, I think from a tankiness perspective of like, does it want to get hit? Yes. But it also has the capability of maneuvering people around so it can get hit and so that other people don't get hit.
Yep.
So
And I think one of the other things with it is it's got a spammable summon as well, like that it can use, which is obviously mitigation as well as a secondary way of healing. It's doubling dipping because it's helping with positionals as well. So yeah, very cool. Drill. Oh, we'll just go drill.
Drill. No, not. Oh, no. I mean, sorry, I shouldn't say no. Actually, that's yes, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if it can tank. I know it has a retaliate build.
Phil tried to do a retaliate build with it, and you obviously went down a different. I think I can't remember now, but no one. There was never a point where I actually was thinking, "Oh, thank God the drill's in the front." Oh, well, actually, sorry. When Phil was doing it, it was, but he was running into the issue of retaliate tanking. He was struggling to get it off because of the luck that he was getting with initiative and things not hitting him or not having a attacked round. It was just several rounds in a row, and then he just retired it and never touched it again.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I'm looking through the cards just really quickly again. Like, there's one that is a move and gives you shield for the round. There's bronze plating, which is like permanent one shield, but you can't perform move abilities. Like,
Oh,
I,
yeah,
I,
okay.
I don't know. I don't know how you make use of that. Like again, I'm not. This isn't a breakdown of the drill, and so don't come at
Yes.
me with all that stuff. But it's like, so I don't know. I think it has. I think the drill has the ability to have tanky turns, again, to try to be and mitigate damage, and probably weaving through the fact that it wants to be in the front line all the time. Right. The one thing I learned about the drill is that it just wants to go in troughs and peaks, right? So you want to build up and you want to dish out stupid amounts of damage, right? And then you want to sit there for a turn and not, right? But you don't want to have to run away. And so the tank cards probably play around in that idea of like, I'm going to do stupid amounts of damage and then I'm going to be in the firing line. Most stuff's probably dead, but I'm going to get hit. So let's take less damage.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
Would you put it in the same category as like, does it have a lot of burst heal like Shackles? Like, does it heal with its health? I mean, tank with its health?
No, I don't think so. It's got some. Look, it's really, and I'm basing this off just my play. The heals are really tricky to get off because you have to get your combo right. But yeah,
Yeah,
I think
okay.
overall it has the ability to tank some, it has the ability to retaliate some, and it has the ability to heal itself some. So I think yeah, that it probably does land in that space. But I still don't. I still think it just shines as like a pure, just absolute burnout DPS, right?
Yep.
Like you figure that puzzle out, and it just does so much damage.
Yep.
Who was next?
Prism?
I think the Prism does, and this is probably the first example of tanking through summons, right? Because we'll talk about the Bone Shaper in a minute, but like I think it has some tanky like tanky summons. For example, the Leaper, the limbs, the legs,
Legs?
right?
I
Has a
actually don't
permanent shield.
remember.
Yeah, it has a permanent shield.
Mm.
There's a tank. Uh, it's called an armored tank, like it's literally a tank, right? Which has a shield. Now, this is the thing: is that with that one, when you jump in it and you have that as your mode, for people who don't understand how Prism works, have a read. You basically get the abilities of your summon. You get a shield, right? So there is a way, and I think I'm not sure who it is. So sorry for not giving you a shout out, but someone in our Discord is playing the Prism at the moment, is actually playing it or looked at playing it tanky for a bit.
Mm.
So I think it definitely has that as a playstyle, as more of a melee frontline, swapping between tanky and healing, like itself. So it has a bit of the tank and has a bit of self-sustain, and plus it's got some pretty decent cards for getting it and it summons life back up. Um, or you just play the zoo build, right? Which is I'm going to throw out all of my summons everywhere, and they are going to tank for me because they're going to just take hits for the party.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Just scrolling down looking at some of the other later cards. Yeah, I'm seeing like level 4 Plague Protocol. There's a move 1, Switcheroo, Shield 2, and things like that. Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah. So yeah, so I think it definitely has a tankier mode that can go in.
That's cool.
But I think it plays as one of those characters that can switch out of that pretty quickly as well, which is kind of cool.
Cool. And shards.
No,
just no. Fair enough.
it has really bad health, and I don't think it has anything that makes you take less damage at all, other than maybe a couple of cards that put muddle on things.
No, that's completely fair enough. Let's go down the characters that we haven't, you and I didn't play. Bling played, probably not. I know it's probably got, like, we've always said everyone's got a cooldown of some kind. A defensive cooldown, it wouldn't surprise. Yeah, there, I can see it. Overdrive.
Invis.
Gain shield, well, blah, blah, blah. Invis, yeah. Invis is not tanking, though.
That's Yeah,
There's a
okay.
ward there as well. Ward and blessed self. Yeah, so probably not. Bone shaper.
I think along the same lines we're just talking about with the prism. I think I don't know if it has cards for itself to tank, but definitely throwing out its summons and again in the way of everything, giving them more health, giving them, I think, whenever anything attacks them, they get poisoned and then they deal damage. Like, so it's just not tanking necessarily, but it's like funneling the monster's attacks through that character's abilities to
Protecting the rest
like,
of the party with
yeah,
its tools, basically.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So.
No, that's cool. Yeah, be curious whether like it's so interesting because if we did an unboxing right now, I'd learn so much from the Bone Shaper
Yeah.
because I just really don't, know much about these cards just from seeing its play. I don't think we've ever really looked at them. So yeah, it's interesting.
It's one of the characters I'm most interested in playing again when we get into Frosthaven Digital.
Totally. It'd be the same deal with Deathwalker. Deathwalker, I know that Phil mentioned there was a card in there, or it's a perk or something where if you're standing on shadows, I think you can probably have different persistence that do different things. And I think one of them is disadvantage. I think there might be a perk so that you have, disadvantage tanking in a way, I guess, make it harder for you to get, hit. Although having a quick scroll down, I can't see anything that screams out to me as anything.
I think similar. I
Probably
think
not.
the Deathwalker is similar to the Blinkblade, and there's a bunch of classes, or also kind of similar to the Meteor in this, in that they are primarily they're damage characters, but they have some tools in there to mean that if they are in a situation or do need to get hit a bunch, they have a way of not just insta giving,
Yes.
right? Not just dying, and that's kind of that more damage mitigation cooldowns rather than like, hey, I'm gonna perform a tank role or in the party.
Yeah, but not a traditional tank, or not a
Mm.
tank, I should say. Not a tanky character that can build tanky.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Kelp.
No.
Fierce.
Uh, maybe through its HP. I know Mark played the
It's
fist
got a
and did a
lot
really
of
good job.
healing,
Yeah.
but usually self.
Yeah, which is it's just what you want, right? So, but I don't know if it necessarily has the option of like going down a tank line. I think again, it's probably one
I
of
think
those
it
things that has the
does.
option of having a lot of HP and then being able to self-sustain so that it can get. But it wants its HP to get its cards back. That's why the self heals are
Totally.
in there.
Yeah, I'm looking at through just down for the first couple of levels and even towards the latter end. There's quite a few shield symbols in there.
Mm.
But it's like two different trees almost, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Trap, that's the last one.
I don't think so.
No shield
Like,
trap.
I think it ever
Take
wants
6
to get
damage and
hit
now
at
you have
all.
shield for the rest of your turn.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no, but I'm happy to be proven wrong with that one.
So with everything we have right now, right? We're playing Crimson Scales. We've got Gemstone, which obviously has tanking potential, and it's a very cool way of dealing with damage mitigation and all that. Would you consider the Beetle a tank now that you're having a quick drink?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it probably lands into that. It has a tankier play style if you want to go down that way. It's weird. I don't know. It's
That's that.
hard, but
Yeah, I don't either.
yeah.
Which is
Um,
great. I love that. It's hard to categorize because it means you can't put it in a box,
yeah, I feel like it's more of like a frontline support. Like a lot of
which is
the
awesome.
abilities are to help someone else tank and frontline. But yeah, there's definitely ways you could play around it to increase it more. So
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to wrap up?
yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. We will wrap it up there. We're running out of time. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of amDirt. Join us next week for another recap, another discussion, and I'll make more time for it. Probably the DPS one, right? I guess we'll go down that path. That should be really complicated. Yeah, but that'll be a fun discussion, right?
Yeah, I love it. It's going to be like, does this character do damage? Yes.
We'll have to
It's
tweak
kind
that
of
one.
we'll need to listen back to the last episode and this one and just make a list of any character we didn't put into the support and tank category and say the rest of them are DPS.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that'll be interesting.
it will. Looking forward to it. In the meantime, I've been your host, Eddie. I've been trying to get my gas.
And remember, when it comes to rolling terribly, it's all in the wrist.